Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Melanin Margin, the weekly chat show where conversations about race are never off the table. We're your hosts, Quaviondre Williams.
And Daquon Wilson.
So let's get into this week's conversation. What's hot on the table this week?
In an article on Vox magazine written by Lee Zhao, we learned that Lizzo, a pop star who has built her brand on both body positivity and empowering upbeat hits, is facing a new lawsuit that levels serious allegations, including claims that she created a hostile work environment and engaged in sexual harassment. The lawsuit, filed by three of Lizzo's former dancers, also alleges misconduct by her production company, Big Girl Big Touring Incorporated, and her dance team captain, Charlene Quigley. Among the claims included in the suit is that Lizzo pressured dancers into unwanted sexual situations, made statements that were perceived as thinly veiled comments about a dancer's weight gain, and put people through grueling rehearsals that led one dancer to soiling herself. As of August 9th, at least six more former employees have filed similar complaints. In an Instagram post, Lizzo pushed back against these allegations, claiming they are as, quote, unbelievable as they sound and too outrageous not to be addressed, end quote. Since receiving these allegations, Lizzo has been dropped from several campaigns. Beyonce has removed Lizzo's name from a song where she mentioned her, and she has been dropped from Super Bowl consideration. Now, with all of that being said, Andre, why do you think that the response to Lizzo's accusations has been so immediate and swift, yet celebrities like Ezra Miller, for example, are given the benefit of the doubt in regards to their controversy?
While Lizzo's guilt or innocence in this case is yet to be determined, the reality is Black people don't have the luxury of being innocent until proven guilty. It's always been the other way around, even more so when it comes to Black women. I think the larger issue here is the fact that we are seeing in real time how unbalanced the scales are when it comes to how Black celebrities and white celebrities are punished for their actions. Taking it back to the Ezra Miller situation, they have been involved in some very nefarious behaviors and have gone on record bragging about how the police couldn't find them. Yet the higher ups in Miller's case, the studio they worked for decided not to let them go and instead allowed Miller to continue filming the production they were working on at the time. And had the movie been a success, there were even talks of Miller reprising the role for future projects. Now, all of these decisions were made prior to Miller's court date, and yet the studio still rallied behind them and even went so far as to say because the film they starred in was so allegedly good that people wouldn't even care about Miller's past actions. Well, it turns out that the film was a colossal failure and the studio lost millions, which has most definitely ended any possible relationship they may have had with Miller moving forward. But the point I'm trying to make here is the studio didn't want to drop Miller for their crimes, but now that Miller has affected their bottom line, Miller is no longer an asset to their company, therefore they have no reason to continue working with them. And this has everything to do with the fact that whiteness gives people the benefit of the doubt in a way that Blackness never has. But I also think that there is something deeper going on here in regards to why Lizzo and other Black artists who are in the midst of controversy are more quickly dropped from brand deals, agencies, and partnerships in their white counterparts. I think it all comes down to the higher ups understanding the power of racism and privilege and using these systems to their advantage in very specific ways. For example, regardless of Miller's gender identity and sexuality, Miller is still a white person that is able to benefit from the patriarchy due to some bigoted perceptions of Miller's identity. However, Lizzo is a big Black woman with a strong personality, and in our fatphobic, racist, misogynistic society, she holds far less systemic and social power than Miller. Not to mention that all the people who are always lying in wait, for the slightest misstep of successful marginalized people in order to bring about their downfall. Now, in the eyes of the higher ups in the industry, Black artists are less valuable than white artists, which means they are less likely to try to protect them should a controversy arise. Now, these higher ups are more willing to take a chance on trying to salvage a white person's career, like Miller's, than a Black woman like Lizzo, simply due to the fact that white apologies are more socially accepted as atonement in the public eye than any other race. Now, this is not to say that the method always works, as evident by the box office failure of Miller's film, but more often than not, this system has proven to work time and again with countless other white artists, which is why I believe that the higher ups in the industry are so quick to dismiss or distance themselves from Black celebrities' controversies, because by their metrics, they stand to lose way more by standing by a Black celebrity until the controversy is resolved than just by dropping them altogether. Because even if that Black celebrity is proven innocent, in the eyes of many bigoted people in society or in the court of public opinion, they were and will always be guilty. But Daquon, what are your thoughts about this?
I mean, let's just compare the two. We have Lizzo, who is, like you said, a plus size, Black, outspoken woman. And we have Ezra Miller, who is a white, conventionally attractive, non binary individual. So in the essence, we have a situation where we see how race plays into the media's responses to different controversies, as well as other intersectional identities. One of the biggest things that I think comes from this situation is just how, you know, unforgiving the media has been to Lizzo. They have made all different types of claims and really have done a lot of work to just throw as much mud on her name as possible. Now, I want to be clear. I am not saying this to defend Lizzo. I am not saying this to, discredit the allegations that are being levied against her, because
Mm-hmm.
I like to believe in victims, and the
Mm-hmm.
legal system is what's going to make the final decision, not me, in terms.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that justice should be served to whoever needs it. But I'm saying this because there is this unbalanced way that we like to throw the book at people. We've talked about this before on the podcast, thinking back to the Whoopi Goldberg situation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very much of the belief, if we are going to throw the book at people, which we should, we need to throw it evenly and across lines and
Mm-hmm.
identities, because there's no reason why we should have two situations where people have done something allegedly wrong, and one of them, it's like, well, let's just think about their mental health and what they're going through, and the other is making fatphobic comments, making racist comments, and all of these other bigoted, mean-spirited comments. So I think one of the most important things that we need to think about when we have this discussion is how these identities play into our conversations, play
Mm-hmm.
into the media's perception, and exactly what they're doing. Because I remember seeing some of the headlines for this, and they really picked on Lizzo for being this body positive plus size person, and then fat shaming people, really in a way that essentially fat shames Lizzo. And I think that, on the other hand, there is going to be some differences in certain situations. I think that in a case like Lizzo, there would have always been a little more outrage,
Mm-hmm.
even beyond just race and identities, because Lizzo is somebody that talks about body positivity and is this very upbeat, uplifting person, empowering person. So to see her outward message not necessarily reflecting her alleged actions can be a little jarring. However, like I said before, when we are throwing the book, we throw the book evenly.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that, I want to ask you also, like, even though we can both agree that, people should be held accountable for their actions, do you think that Lizzo's accusations have opened the door for that, socially acceptable fat phobic rhetoric?
Oh, absolutely. I think that there are so many people that are plotting on people's downfalls. They
Yeah.
are waiting in the dark, just like, all right, when is this person going to mess up? When can
Yeah.
I get them? And they jumped on this opportunity. Again, I'm not defending Lizzo. However, it needs to be said that a lot of these people were just waiting to say something on Lizzo and be able to get away with it. And I think that there is also this fine line when it comes to controversy of when people defend a person, they
Hmm.
also think that we are defending their actions,
Hmm.
and the two are mutually exclusive. We've talked about this before on the podcast as well, but we can criticize a person in what they've done without having to disrespect that person. We can talk about Lizzo and the controversy and all of these allegations without further fat shaming her or talking about her race or doing all of these mean spirited, bigoted comments. And so I think that there is this conversation that needs to be had around that. That it's sad that, even in this conversation right now, I have to clarify and clarify and clarify
Yeah.
that I am not defending Lizzo actions and these allegations because people just love to think that the moment you call somebody out for being fat phobic or bigoted
Yeah.
towards somebody who is going through controversy, that you're defending them. And that's not the case at all.
Yeah, I think that I agree. I think Lizzo's accusations have 100% opened the door for this type of rhetoric because, just like I said earlier, and just like you just said just now, there were people on the sidelines waiting for her downfall for a long time. And like you just said too, clarifying again, no one is saying that people shouldn't be discussing the allegations against Lizzo and or discussing how they would feel about her if these allegations are proven truthful. What I am saying, and I think what both of us are kind of saying here, is that there are several fat phobic and anti-Black people out there who are using these allegations as yet another way to tear down fat people or Black people. And there are also many Black people in the community, specifically, Black cis straight men, who are using these allegations to further perpetuate misogynoir and fat phobia. Now, when this story first broke, there were probably and still are, massive amounts of videos of people that have been making, using the story as like a gotcha moment to the public, as if the story somehow weakens the argument that we as a society still shouldn't be fat phobic, racist, or perpetuating, misogynoir. Now, no one is saying that if these allegations are true, that Lizzo shouldn't be held accountable. If they are true, then it is truly despicable to hear that someone who we thought of as a body positive type of performer has betrayed the very message she stood for, among other things. However, I also want people to know that, just like you said, just because the message may have come from a source who might not be practicing what they preach, this does not negate the fact that the message still remains the truth. People who are hating on Lizzo simply because she's a big Black woman were and still are wrong. The message that people should love themselves and celebrate the bodies that they have is also still an empowering and correct message. And the message that body shaming is wrong is also still very much so correct. It's very frustrating to me that people can't seem to grasp the concept that if you become a bigot when someone of a marginalized community upsets you, then you were never an ally to begin with. You were just a bigot in disguise. So, to the people who are calling out Lizzo by insulting her weight, her Blackness, and or her womanhood, you are still being fat phobic, anti-Black, and misogynistic. Just because the person you're calling out has fallen out of favor with the public or done something that's controversial or illegal does not give you free reign to let out your internalized prejudice, and let it run rampant. You can hold someone accountable without having to resort to prejudice to do so. And if you can't, I think that means that you might have a lot of unpacking and unlearning to do. But I mean, what do you think about that, Daquon?
I really enjoyed how you said that, despite all of these different allegations that are being levied against Lizzo, that it doesn't change that the message she shares still needs to be heard, because that is so true. And if not, it shows even more why this message should be shared more widely and talked about, because we can see that even in somebody who is body positive, who is this kind of ally and advocate for certain things, there can still be problems within that person. And so I think that it really creates this big message that, like, even when we see people doing big things and saying different things, that there can still be these underlying feelings of fat phobia and
Mm-hmm.
internalized misogynoir and all of these different things. And I also think that it is so important to call out people who are just using controversy to be bigoted
Yeah.
as bigots, because that's what they are. If
Mm-hmm.
you are only an ally to somebody when they are good in your eyes, when they are one of the good ones,
Mm-hmm.
you are a part of the problem. You are the
The
problem.
problem. Yeah, no, I 100% agree, and I think it's really sad that we as a society can't seem to grow past that, and we've seen this a lot of times in the past before too. I mean, even people who, try to check Candace Owens or Caitlyn Jenner, or Christian Walker. It's like, if you're being homophobic, you're being racist, or you're being transphobic, you're calling Caitlyn Jenner he and using he him pronouns, or Ezra Miller or whatever, and saying, I'm not going to respect their pronouns because they're a horrible person. I've heard that a lot too. And it's like, that you are still being a bad person. You are still doing the wrong thing. What is it? How does that saying go? Like, two wrong things don't make a right kind of thing, where it's like, if you're sitting there talking shit about a person's identity, you're not just talking shit about their identity, you're talking about everybody who has that identity. We can call people out for being, saying very egregious and disgusting things and having and using very violent language, but that does not excuse being transphobic, racist, misogynistic, all the isms and stuff like that. It just doesn't. And to think anything otherwise than that, like you just said, Daquon, you are the problem.
Right. And one more little thing, I think that, like you said, we have to realize that comments don't just affect the person you're throwing them at. I
Yes,
think that
yes.
there's something like, when you come from a marginalized community and somebody from that community messes up on a huge level, you are like, okay, this person should be held accountable.
Yeah.
But you're also like, dang, I know that so many people are going to use this to be racist, not only to that person, but to all of the Black community. You know that somebody is going to spew all of these fat phobic comments, and it's also going to impact you and what you see on social media, because it will be everywhere. So we have to realize that when you criticize somebody in a bigoted way, it's going to affect that entire community.